Well, can you dig it? We're hearing it in different communities. A little while ago, it was Chicago. Now we're hearing it in Missouri. They're seeing what Malcolm X said like 50 years ago. The Democrats are playing blacks for a chump. That's not a paraphrase. That's what Malcolm X said. And communities of American blacks are starting to feel it. They're starting to feel like chumps. And they're starting to catch on that it's the Democrats that have been playing them. Now, some of y'all probably remember the first vid I did addressing the situation in Ferguson. And I said these folks are being oppressed by the very system they vote for. Stop voting for Democrats and you'll feel the oppression lift. Stop giving power to your oppressors with your vote or your refusal to vote. The haters came ridiculing me, saying voting Democrat or Republican has nothing to do with this. I beg to differ. Yes, it does. And they picked up on it. So take that and tutti frutti.
I think what's happening. Propaganda.
Now, if you listen to Malcolm X's view on self-reliance and wanting the state to stay out of the way so that the black man could realize his ambitions, you'll find that Malcolm X's worldview reflects conservatism way more than liberalism. Same as Frederick Douglass, Booker T. Washington, Marcus Garvey, and Carter Woodson, to name a few. And I'll remind you, Malcolm X wasn't a Republican and didn't care much for conservatives, even though his worldview was more conservative. And he specifically loathed Democrats and liberals. Malcolm X did not like liberals at all. He saw them as a conniving, smiley-faced fox, ready to do the black man dirty, while using the black man to get sympathy votes for their objectives. That's when people try to talk about this bogus party switch. I say it's bunk, and they think I'm crazy. And when they get torn down on the party switch myth, they backpedal and try to pull a word shuffle game and say that it was an ideological switch because the Democrats were conservative back then. Bull. Democrats have never been conservative. How can you be conservative when you're always taking liberties with the Constitution? Democrats took liberties with the Constitution to justify slavery. They took liberties with the Constitution to argue against women's suffrage. They took liberties with the Constitution to impose segregation, etc. A conservative view of the Constitution shows that the protections of the Constitution applies to all and that nobody was meant to enjoy their rights at the forced expense of others or infringe upon someone else's rights for their own comforts. I'll give you an example of what that means. Slavery. Slavery is a forced expense. The cost is a person's freedom so that someone else can enjoy their own ideas of comfort. Democrats wanted to keep that institution. That's why the Democrat-represented Confederacy was at war with the Republican-represented Union. The Democrat platform takes liberties with the Constitution, and it results in oppression. The Republican platform is the more ready-fitted conservative approach to the Constitution, and it results in liberty. If you want liberty, be conservative with the Constitution and keep to what it says. If you take liberties with it, that means being deviant with it, which results in oppression. That is what Democrats did back then to justify slavery. That's what Democrats do today to make the people subjects of the state. That's why I'm telling you, Democrats have never been conservative. They've always had a liberal approach to the Constitution, and those liberties and deviances result in oppression. There was no ideological switch. Malcolm X saw the Democrats then. People who vote Democrat try to say that the Democrat Party was different back then. But you can't say that without admitting that the Democrat Party was the party of institutionalized bigotry and are responsible for the morbid bigotry that resonates to people's anger to this day. And the truth is, the objective of the Democrat Party is no different, and Malcolm X prophesied on it. And he knew that they used liberalism to play you for a chump. You try to say that back then the Democrats weren't liberal. Well, I'm telling you that Malcolm X, that icon that liberals think they revere so much, was there back then. And even he knew that Democrats back then were liberals. It's the same thing Democrats try to say about Lincoln, that he didn't care about freeing slaves. When the Democrats of Lincoln's day hated Lincoln's guts because they saw him as committing the abomination of sacrificing white lives for black freedom. But the Democrats and neo-Confederates don't want you to know that. Don't listen to these people. They're the ones who have been lying to the people for decades. And what's it done for you to believe them and be influenced to be prejudiced against Republicans? Do you want to be angry or do you want to be free? You've been led to believe that Republicans don't care about you, but Democrats do. Democrats are for the people. Listen, Republicans aren't ignoring you. Republicans care enough about you to stay out of your way. What that means is keeping the government off your back and only be involved when it comes to keeping rights from being infringed upon. Many are led to believe that Republicans want to take away entitlements. Nobody's entitled to things at the forced expense of others. The Republican platform is the guardian of that constitutional God-given balance of freedom. Democrats have led you to believe that the government is supposed to give you things. The government can't give you anything without taking from you too. That's the vicious circle of oppression you feel. The Democrats giving you stuff and caring about the people is basically an exercise of them bottling your sweat mixed with everybody else's and rationing some to you to quench your thirst. The government can't give you anything without robbing you and everybody else. That's why your communities don't develop, because the Democrats keep bleeding you. Stop letting them stay in power. You can't blame Republicans for that, Missouri. The representation of your state has been vastly Democrat. Now word to Mark Levin, Sarah Palin, Mike Huckabee, and the like, who flirt out threats to leave the Republican Party. You picked the worst time to do that. We've got an opportunity to replace lukewarm, milquetoast Republicans with people who are on fire. What are y'all thinking leaving the Republican Party is gonna accomplish? If there's not enough conservatives in the Republican Party for you, what makes you think there's enough outside of it? You're only doing the Democrats a favor. Democrats used to use hoods and sheets to keep people from being Republican. Now you're doing their job for them, and you're gonna walk out on your own. I'm not gonna give them the satisfaction. It's a joke if you're thinking that you can restore the country, but you can't even restore your party. You're thinking you have the answer to illegals slipping into our country, yet you can't even deal with rhinos slipping into our tent. You think you're gonna improve upon education while conservatives haven't even been effective at promoting the education that the Republican Party is the most conducive platform for conservatism. Conservatives think they have the answer to defending our nation, but can't even defend the borders of our tent from the invasion of rhinos. And right now, their strategy is cut and run. Conservatives think they have the answer to gain ground to protect traditional marriage in our country, while losing ground in our tent to rhinos who think we need to ditch that issue to win. Conservatives think they have the answer to abortion. Meanwhile, they don't have the answer to being aborted from the Republican Party by others who feel like abortion is an alienating issue. Meanwhile, they seem to forget that the ones who are the most alienated are the children who get aborted, as they're deprived of the rights that are supposed to be inalienable in the first place. But too many Republicans are so worried about alienating liberals with social issues when liberals don't give a damn about alienating us with their social issues, and it works for them. But maybe up until now. Now we have an opportunity to show those who are disenchanted with Democrats what distinguishes us from them, instead of trying to appeal to them as something that's not much different. Hell, even Jesus knew that his message was going to alienate people. I'd rather follow his lead. I'm Alfonso Rachel with ZoNation, and I'm not saying you need to be a Republican to save the country. I'm saying that it's hard to win with a fractured team. How do you expect to restore a nation if you can't even hold a tent together? That's like the Beatles telling billions of people that all we need is love and to come together, when they couldn't even maintain unity between the four of them. Tutti frutti.